Her voice cut through the clinking glasses like a blade. "To Mom and Dad," my sister said, smiling with that polished, pageant, perfect smile she's worn since she learned manipulation was prettier when dressed as charm. "For raising an only child." Silence. A pause, deliberate. My mother laughed lightly. My father nodded, amused. And I stayed very still. No one at that table turned to me. Not my parents, not my sister, not the husband she stole from me. Hashtag. Before. I used to think betrayal was loud, shouting, slammed doors, ugly words. It's not. It's quiet, slow, like water wearing down stone until you don't recognize what's left. Sophie, my sister, was my shadow growing up. I thought that meant closeness. She mirrored my choices, my clothes, my hobbies, even my friends. I didn't realize she was rehearsing, practicing, learning exactly how to replace me. When I met Michael, she welcomed him like family. Too much, maybe, but I brushed it off. She was single, charming, what harm could it do? Hashtag. Cracks. The harm started small. She started dropping by when I wasn't home. Michael began mentioning her in casual stories more than me. She gave him gifts on his birthday before I could. And then, one evening, Michael came home with a scarf I didn't own. Sophie's. He swore she left it after visiting. Sophie laughed when I asked. I smiled at both of them, pretended I believed it. But that's the thing about smiling, you can hide anything behind it. Hashtag. The evidence. I didn't catch them in bed. I didn't need to. A friend sent me photos. Sophie and Michael holding hands in the corner booth at a wine bar I'd introduced them to. His tie undone, her lipstick smudged. They looked happy. I felt nothing. The nothing was my warning. I wasn't broken. I was calculating. Hashtag. The shift. I didn't confront them. Instead, I studied them. I made polite conversation at family gatherings, asked Sophie for sister advice, listened to Michael complain about work. And while they believed I was still blind, I changed my will. I closed our joint accounts. I transferred ownership of my company shares into a trust they couldn't touch. Sophie wanted to replace me? She could have the spotlight. I'd take the stage lights, the curtains, and the audience with me. Hashtag. The setup. When our parents' 40th anniversary came, I called Sophie. Told her I'd booked the restaurant, ordered the cake, planned the speeches. She offered to give a toast. I insisted. Michael was invited, of course, by me. I wanted him there. I wanted his eyes on me when the curtain fell. Hashtag. The night. The room smelled of roses and champagne. Family and friends filled the space, laughter echoing against the walls. I was seated between an aunt who gossiped and an uncle who drank too much. Perfect camouflage. Sophie arrived in white silk, glowing like a bride. Michael followed in a suit I'd bought him years ago. They didn't sit together, but their eyes kept finding each other. Little glances, little tells. Midway through dinner, Sophie stood with her glass. "To Mom and Dad," she said sweetly, "for raising an only child." Gasps, a few awkward chuckles. My mother raised her glass, eyes soft. My father smiled. Michael's lips twitched, almost a smirk. Hashtag. The strike. I stood, slow. The sound of my chair scraping against the floor pulled every eye in the room. "That's funny," I said, lifting my own glass, "because I could have sworn I had a sister." Sophie's smile faltered. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small stack of printed photographs. Michael and Sophie at the wine bar, at his apartment, at a hotel. I laid them on the table in front of my parents. The room went dead quiet. "I thought tonight was about family," I said evenly, "but apparently some of us have different definitions." Sophie's face flushed red. Michael shifted in his seat, jaw tight. "Oh, and before anyone worries about inheritance," I added, still calm, "I've already updated my will. Every cent of my estate is going to charity. The trust is sealed. The business sold. So if anyone here was planning on replacing me, they'll find the role comes without benefits." Hashtag the fallout. My mother stared at Sophie, betrayal etched deep. My father pushed his chair back and left the table. Michael reached for Sophie's arm. She yanked it away. Whispers spread like fire. Glasses clinked nervously. I didn't sit back down. I set my glass on the table, nodded to my parents, and walked out. The night air was cold, clean. It felt like the first breath after drowning. Hashtag aftermath. Within a week, Michael was living in a short-term rental. Sophie moved back into my parents' house. Temporarily. Our relatives stopped calling her the pretty one and started using words like shameless and disgrace. I didn't respond to any of it. I didn't need to. I'd already won. I learned that night that revenge doesn't have